And one project that I've been dealing with recently that connects to this in an interesting way is that I've been going back to 19th century French poetry and mistranslating it. I do a lot of creative work with things like, translating languages like Russian and Chinese, translating Sanskrit without really knowing the languages, but using techniques like homophones, sort of just looking at the words and looking at them imagistically and translating something out of that. So in the 19th century, in French poetry, we really see not only the origins of this starting to think about failure, but we also see the origins of this notion of indeterminacy as it impacts literary failure. So one of the failed failures that didn't make it into this book was somebody like Paul Verlaine, who is famous for he has the most famous anthology of failed poets of all time. He called them the poètes maudits, the sort of cursed or damned poets. And they included people like Baudelaire and Rimbaud and Corbière and himself as well. So Verlaine is a sort of very interesting, odd character, but he was the poet of the chanson grisée, the gray song, right? And one of the translations from his Art of Poetry, one of the lines was that poetry was the art where the exact and the unexact meet. And so it's precisely, you know this, you're like, yeah, okay. So this idea of this space where the exact and the unexact meet is precisely what Cage is doing with Indeterminacy, right? He's setting up these parameters, he's setting up these scores, but he's opening it up to the indeterminacy of time, the indeterminacy of experience and of context. So I wanted to read, just as a sort of little break as we're going along, and I'll have to keep my eye on the time because this is radio and we're sort of have a little slot here. I wanted to read a couple of these translations just to show you how Verlaine can be read through the Cagean filter, but also we can sort of read this notion of failure through these poems as well. Like I said, these are experimental translations, so if any of you are sort of really professional, sort of French people in the room, a professional French person, whatever that means, you might be offended, but I think you'll realize that sometimes these experimental means get at the poem in a little bit, almost more in the spirit of the poem than a more dutiful translation. And I hope you can tell how I'm bending this poem to be cagey in a certain way. So this is Paul Verlaine's The Art of Poetry. Toot is better than tune. Things are in process, impish, vague, and imperceptible. Sing nothing that's heavy or that stings. Risk to a fault the absurdly chosen word, since the exact phrase fails to fairly fail. Let gray chance be your grail, uncertain sound the sought-for chord. The unwritten, unrevealed beautifully. Existence shines when a day's half known, even under an ambiguous autumn sun. The blue star mid-fall follows its folly. We want nuance, encore, and no more color. Nothing but nuance. Nuance. Only by nuance can one dream become another. Flee le mot juste. He's just a mugger. And twee hyperbole and easy laughter. It pisses off the azure to see all these foodies noodling on Blogger. Rend eloquence. Smear it with a goat turd. Feral on a roll with a Red Bull. Take rhyme on your Burning Man ritual. And stay up with her, lest you lose her to another word. And oh, the contortions in rhyme's power. Black and crazy comic mudras. Bizarre coordinates yoked to cosmic compass. What else but a kiss sounds like flower? Toot and toot forever after. Sing it like a skipping stone, which meets the water, then the sky, then another piece of water. Let verse free verse itself, at your whim. Scatter to the crisp wind of twilight your lines as if they were thyme sprigs or twigs of mint, and all the rest can go to print. We'll do one more Verlaine, and then we'll get back to this. We'll get back to the book. And this is good because I call this Paul Verlaine's Indeterminacy dance. And this is a kind of pun you can only do a couple times before it gets old, because of course the title is Dans l'interminable or something like that. So dans is just the word for in or inside in French, I think. Like I was saying, I know French barely, and so that's why I'm using experimental techniques. So instead of using don as just this preposition, I'm using it as dance. So Paul Verlaine's Indeterminacy dance. In interminable disinterest, the horizontal. Indeterminate snowfall glows like a black kettle. See, the sky is a sieve, not a star will pass. The moon still is, but is stilled, alas. Clouds have no commas, so the forest floats grayly, as if the entirety of nature were under erasure. See, the sky is a sieve, not a star will pass. The moon still is, but is stilled, alas. What wind bizarre has taken even the air? The fair beast turns meager, the crow a liar. In interminable disinterest, the horizontal. Indeterminate snowfall glows like a black kettle. And so you can see there how even in the 19th century, this desire for a kind of negative neutrality, the grayness of nature, the noise of nature, is opened up by thinking about this indeterminacy.